If you bring your boy to football, you all of a sudden are the football expert. You will not trust the coach. If you take your son to a piano lesson, do you stand at the back of the class and tell the teacher he's pressing the wrong keys? And the answer is no. Rico Henry, he had a very smooth pathway. Every player doesn't. There's road bumps, there's roller coasters. So you have to explain to parents and players, and be honest, you know, everyone's pathway is different. Hi everyone, my name is Graham Biggs. I've been involved with football for pretty much all my life. Most importantly, I've been involved with the professional game for approximately 30 years. I've had a long journey. I've coached every age group from foundation through to seniors, PDP, and I've held lots of various roles throughout the academy, from part-time coach working with the foundation, into the YDP, into the PDP, old money. I used to be Centre of Excellence manager. I've been a head of coaching, and recently I've been an academy manager. The common denominator for young boys to make it is determination and really self-belief. There's a lot of players, boys who come, who have got all the attributes but haven't got the right attitude, and attitude will actually ultimately stop them progressing. So if you're looking at a player, of course they have to be technically and tactically good. That's our jobs as coaches. But you always look at attitude over ability first, because if you can have a player with all the ability in the world but he hasn't got the right attitude, it will not progress. If you look at a player who has got the right attitude and he's got a willingness to learn, the chances are that he's got a chance of progressing. And I think importantly for everyone who's going to be involved, there's various pathways. And so players will actually ultimately find their own level. So having worked in the professional game for such a long time, everybody cannot be a Premier League player. Everyone cannot be an international player. So players will find their own levels, but the attitude will get them a long, long way. I think you have to think about it and not misinterpret it, because you don't want a choir boy. You want somebody who wants to give it its all, have an opinion, but must respect of what you're trying to achieve. Because you have to think that football is a structure. So whether that's an individual in a position, or in a team structure, or in a unit structure, they have to follow instructions. So everybody's got their own personality, because that's what makes us all different. All of the people in this room right now will have different personalities with different traits, different qualities, different, how can I say, strengths and weaknesses. And you're not going to get the complete package. That's a near impossible. The one who's probably got the nearest to that is, well, there's two really, isn't there? There's Messi and there's Ronaldo, those two. But if you look at them, they're still very different people with very different lifestyles. But because their attitude was spot on, they wanted to be the very best in the world, they would drive to it. They would have, if you think of Ronaldo, we would have had Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson's not going to mess about with Ronaldo's antics. So there's a structure, so there's a discipline, there's still a want. But he doesn't stop that when he's out on the pitch, allowing him to express himself. And the stories go, for example, with Ronaldo, he was always first into training and last out because he wanted to be the best. So his attitude, what's perceived by the public, probably isn't what's perceived with the inside of the four walls of the football club. I coached grassroots actually, and was reasonably successful. And it was a little bit by luck, default. I was running a grassroots team. I played a West Bromwich Albion team, and our grassroots team destroyed them. And the coach there, ex-player, a fantastic man named Steve McKenzie, played at the highest level. He said, "You're too good to work in grassroots, come and work at West Brom." And on that I went, as a part-time foundation coach, and then mid-90s, so a long time ago. And then I wanted to make sure I did it right, so then I went down the education route and did my badges, and I'm proud to say I've got an A licence now and a Advanced Youth Award, and I've worked very hard at that. So if you think about my own journey and why I say to everyone, attitude over ability comes through, because I have worked with some fantastic coaches, but have never achieved what I've achieved, pure and simply because they didn't want to put the hard work in, or they didn't want to listen to people who are trying to help them. So that's why I think it has to be attitude over ability all day long. Of course, ability has to come through, because ultimately that's what everyone's looking at. But people will not look at a bad one. They'll look at a good one with poor ability. They won't look at a poor attitude with good ability, but they'll look at a good attitude with poor ability, because they know that they can nurture that. I started at Walsall, so I was at West Brom for a couple of years with the foundation, and I went to Walsall as a YDP coach.
For those who don't know, what's
YDP, so foundation really works from under 9s to under 12s, and then there's a pre-academy which is 6s to 9s. Foundations 9s to 12s, and then 12s to 16s is YDP. So I went to Walsall and worked with the YDP, and I went pretty much up and down the age groups at that, and managed to become Centre of Excellence Manager. So I was actually running it. That was before academies were really formed through the EPPP. Then I sort of had to run the Centre of Excellence with the coaches, parents, players, scouts, looking at talent and what we could do. And then when the invent of the EPPP came in, Walsall, as with every other football club across the country really, became academies. And I was then PDP coach. So that was then 18s, basically 16s to 18s. But nowadays, because things evolve, it's up to 21s. And I was PDP coach, so I've worked with the under-18s, worked with the 21s or the reserves, and then the fringe players. And then I was very fortunate enough to become academy manager. And I was academy manager and sort of overseeing the whole thing at Walsall, yeah. And I had a great relationship with the board of directors, and I've worked for lots and lots of good first team managers who would give, you know, the kids the opportunity. I was at Walsall for 20 years, so there's been quite a lot of players that have come through. And again, a player's journey can vary. So some can come in at foundation, so they can come in at 9. Some can come in at the YDP. Some can actually start at PDP. So although they're actually in that transitional part of a 16-year-old, the ones that usually are picked up at 16s are from your Cat 1 clubs. So I can give you a couple of examples. Rico Henry was signed at 14. He was picked up. He was then obviously went through the YDP phase. He went into the PDP phase. He was obviously a very, very exceptionally talented boy, and he got his opportunity in the first team, and he then sort of flitted between first team and the under-18s, and then obviously got his pro, and sort of the rest is history. He then got sold for a lot of money, and he's now playing for Brentford in the Premier League. Another one, Jamie Patterson, another boy who was picked up. Again, he went through the YDP phase, into the PDP phase, got a pro, stayed in and around it for quite a while, broke into the first team, did very, very well. And then I think he got sold to Nottingham Forest for a lot of money as well. And then another one, local boy, Amadou Bakayoko, he was picked up quite late. Trial game, he was picked up at 16. Again, when I talk about attitude over ability, Amadou's attitude, he just wanted to be the best. technically and tactically at that point he wasn't, but he just wanted to. So everything he would do extras. He would work hard. He got offered a scholarship, which is the PDP. Done it amazingly well in the youth setup. Worked really hard. Did the extras, and then got a pro. Broke into the first team, and then got sold to Coventry for, again, a lot of money, and I believe he's still in the game. So those three players, I think Amadou was Championship, and the other two, I believe, have played Premier League. There's a list of players, as long as my arm, that I could sort of speak about, and I've chose those three because they're local boys, and I think it's really important that the people who are interested in sort of coming to our events realise that there's opportunities out there for local boys. But their attitudes were spot on. You didn't get a problem, and I don't mean, like I said earlier, we didn't want choir boys. We wanted people who wanted to work hard, and that they'd got every right to ask questions and disagree, because that's part of it. That's real life. That's being a human being and being able to express. But they did it in the correct way. And then the structure of positions, the structure of, so it would be position specific, it would be unit work, it would be obviously teamwork. They would listen and they would learn. But I believe all three of them would actually do the extras. So when I keep talking about attitude, they would want to be the best. They would want to do the extra gym work. They would want to do the extra technical work with the ball. They wanted to do the actual tactics work. You know, it might be on a tactics board with myself or another coach who would show them positions and how they did. They would do analysis. They would do clipping. So they would always want to do that. So that has got to be the key. That is massive. The second one is opportunity, because there's an awful lot of talented boys who have never had the opportunity. So you need the opportunity, and that can be from a lots of different ways. And then I have to be honest, I think there's an element of luck, because if you're not in the right place at the right time, sometimes that opportunity doesn't arrive, and because you're not in that right environment, that attitude can be wrong. So we all can think there's almost a magic wand to make a player. Each player's journey will be different. Each player's journey, as the journeys in life, will be different. So attitude, massive. Opportunity, massive. And a little bit of luck to actually be in those right places is key. So being at a game when a scout turns up, for example, that's luck. Because that scout might not go to that game, the game that's been playing. It might be a first team manager who really believes in youths, so he wants to bring them in. I've worked with managers who've got no interest in youth. So you could have the best player in the country, but he will only back senior players. So there's that's the luck and the opportunity. So those are the things really that need to be, you can't control. The only thing you control is the right attitude. Northampton, I left Walsall and then went and became head of coaching. So not only was I developing players, I was developing coaches, and I was fortunate enough to get a degree in coach education, coach development, and I did that for a number of years and actually worked with some really good coaches, which was helping to develop the players. And some of these people who I worked with went from part-time to full-time, some went from full-time to Cat 1 clubs. So that was really interesting and a different way of looking at things. And then due to movement to first team, staff, etc., I got the opportunity to become academy manager, so overseeing the old academy again. So it was looking at, again, recruitment, looking at from foundation through to PDP, looking at how we get players out on loan, looking at how we can attract players, because Northampton is a Cat 3 club, and again you have to look at relationships. So if a bigger club, for example an Aston Villa, releasing a player, you want to be in the ballpark to see that player first. So then that's opportunity. So that's, again, that kid might be the best player at Villa, but he might not have the right attitude, and therefore he'll fall by the wayside. That kid might have the right attitude, but somebody might be better than him. So it's a case of trying to nurture things, and different players, as people, as coaches, will develop at different rates. So he might not be right for Villa at that point, but he might be right for a Northampton or a Walsall. Yeah, that is difficult because parents believe that their child is the best because they see it through rose-tinted spectacles. I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent as well, so I understand that. But I think you just have to be honest, and you have to tell them where they are in their journey. And just because it's not happening at that point doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. I've worked with more so at Walsall, I've worked with players who have struggled and still ended up getting pros because their journey has been different to someone else's. I won't name the player because it's not fair, but Rico Henry, he had a very smooth pathway. Every player doesn't. There's road bumps, there's roller coasters. So you have to explain to parents and players and be honest. You know, everyone's pathway is different. And I believe since Rico's been at Brentford, I think he's had a roller coaster because I think he got injured. I think he was on the periphery of getting called into the England 20s that won the World Cup, and he had a massive injury, so he's dipped. Then he come back, and then so the road to success isn't always smooth and flat. I think early conversations and being honest. The chances of becoming a professional footballer is less than 1%, and I think that you have to paint that picture very, very clearly. And just because you may not be playing for a Man City, a Liverpool, a West Bromwich Albion, a Villa, a Northampton or a Walsall doesn't mean to say that you're a bad player. It just means that you're not at that level at that time. And of course there comes a time that you'll never reach that level, but there's always a level for everyone, and I think you have to express that. So I've dealt with lots and lots, quite probably hundreds of young men, 18s, who haven't made pros. They've had a 2-year scholarship, haven't made a pro, but there is always a level for them. And I think if you're honest with them and you explain it to them properly in the right manner, they will find their level, and people will come back. They do come back. I think it's harder now than ever because the expansion of academies and Cat 1s can throw literally millions and millions of pounds at it. It's harder. It's different now with Brexit, but when you're looking at, if you're looking at a Walsall or a Northampton, they scour the local areas. For example, the Villa will scour the world. That's the reality. So that's why relationships are key, because they might get a player from abroad that then the local boy might not get in. They're looking for the very, very best in the world. They're looking for top-end Premiership, Champions League, internationals. Everyone's looking for the same, but you have to be realistic of where you are in on that ladder. Well, a Cat 1 is really your real top-end clubs, your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Villas, and their facilities, their infrastructure, the amount of staff they've got is astronomical. Your Cat 2s, Coventry is a great example because it's local. A really, really good club, produce players, sell players, and I think if they have a player who's exceptional, they will probably end up selling him to one of the big clubs, but they're still producing players for their own. But the facilities and the infrastructure and the staffing isn't going to be the same as a Cat 1. And then Cat 3, it drops down again. So the amount of staff you've got, the facilities you've got, the players. If you've got a really good player, the chances are that you'll sell it to a Cat 1. And so therefore that is where the thing sort of yo-yos. And then Cat 4s only run on under 18s. So then anything schoolboy wise, they would run as a community programme and they can go for free. But the Football League, I think, ensure that there's an under 18s team if they're in the Football League. I think it's difficult, and the reason I say it's difficult, I've worked up and down the country with academies, and you have to look at catchment areas ultimately, and then you look at the vast expanse of clubs in the northwest. So if you're talking of There's two major Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Everton. So there's four huge clubs in a tiny area. Then if you start spreading it, you got Preston, Blackpool, Fleetwood, and it just keeps going. Wigan, they're all good clubs. So their catchment area is huge. If you look at Birmingham, you've not got that sort of amount of top clubs in Birmingham as you have in the northwest, but you've still got Villa obviously at top, Wolves, Albion, Coventry, Birmingham City, Walsall. So there's a lot there. Then if you're looking at players, you've got a massive catchment area in Birmingham. It's a huge inner city that's not really been looked at. There's huge amount of grassroots going on. There's football clubs, there's football academies. I don't mean professional academies. I mean schools, districts, county footballs that is not being looked at. And the reason for that is you've got to get out there to see them, and I do believe there's a vast amount of talent out there. The boys that I've mentioned earlier have made it and have had careers in the game are local boys. Another one, a goalkeeper that if you're talking about Liam Roberts, now Liam Roberts has been around for a long time, still playing. I think I can't remember his last club because he's had so many clubs, but Liam, his attitude over his ability in the beginning brought him through, and then because of his hard work and his endeavour and his desire to do well, he's hundreds of games in the league. At least I would guess he's certainly up to 200 because he's been so determined to actually achieve that, and he's gone from club to club. He's been sold, he's been bought, he's had frees, but he's never given up on his desire to actually to do well. Yeah, well, I've been fortunate enough to be introduced to yourself, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to nurture and find hidden talent in Birmingham, and by that we're going to put a number of training sessions on with various things. So we'll be looking at technical, tactical, physical. We'll be looking at position specific. We'll be looking at games, and we're trying to prepare all of these boys in a manner to be showcased, and that will happen by invitation to professional clubs for scouts to come and look. And all you can ever do is give somebody an opportunity. So that is what we're trying to do. So we're looking at, they don't have to be the best player now. What they have to do is come with the right attitude. They have to come with a desire to want to learn, and then we'll try and give them the opportunity. Ultimately, there's no guarantees. They have to come and perform. But the thing is, I can guarantee they will all enjoy and go away better players than when they came into the process. Opportunity. I think opportunity is key, and you can't buy opportunity. All you can do is, with what we're going to do over the next few weeks, is we're going to showcase good players. We're going to try and teach them some football. We're going to try and teach them some real fundamentals. They're going to come, hopefully they're going to have a good time, because without having a good time, they're not going to want to come, and they're going to learn something. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is give them the opportunity to showcase, because that's all we can do. Come with the right attitude, come with the right opportunity, which I believe we're going to give them, and a little bit of luck, because if the right scout comes and he's looking for the right player, then hopefully we can do. All we can do is we can put it out there and we can see what we can do with these young men.
Is there any factors?
I still think it's down to opportunity. I mean, you talk about both Bellingham and Grealish was quoted as the best players in the world at both times, wasn't they? Both from Birmingham, really. Grealish come through as a young boy at Villa. Bellingham come through as a young boy at Blues, and his brother came through at Blues. And I know Grealish has probably now dipped because he went for £100 million, I believe. but there's lots of other players, and I think that without having that opportunity, I think that's where people struggle, and I think that's what hopefully this showcase will do, give people opportunities to showcase, and the best players will always shine. They will always shine, but what they might not get is the opportunity. A lot of coaches, including myself, have gone through a massive journey to learn. And I'll give you an analogy. So if you bring your boy to football, you all of a sudden are the football expert. You will not trust the coach. If you take your son to a piano lesson, do you stand at the back of the class and tell the teacher he's pressing the wrong keys? And the answer is no. So everybody thinks they're the football expert. We all do it. We're watching the football tonight, tomorrow. We're all shouting at telly because we know best. But you don't ever watch a music concert and tell somebody singing rubbish, do you? You think, I mean, he's a good singer. So you need to trust. But for some reason, football has got this weird outlook that the abuse and the parent involvement takes away their expertise of the coach, who's actually gone on a journey himself, a learning journey, and done the right thing by doing the badges, by going on workshops, by learning the game. Some people have played it, some people haven't, but they've still had to get to a certain level. A parent will see their kid through rose-tinted spectacles, but like I say, would you ever take your son to a piano lesson and stand at the back of the class and tell him is it the wrong key? The answer is no. But they'll all do that at football. They all will. So trust the coach. Northampton's a cat through, and I can't name players because that's not fair, but I'll give you a couple of examples. We picked up some boys, local boys, obviously from the Northampton area, who broke into the first team. One of them actually broke, and you can look this up on the web, broke the club record for the youngest player. He was 16 when he broke into the first team. And another example, picked up a boy, I believe at 14, sold him for quite a lot of money to a Cat 1 club not very far from here. And I can't say any more than that because that's not fair. So again, look at opportunity. Why I say that, if the scout's not at the game at the time that player is playing, there's the look, there's the opportunity gone. But if the player keeps doing it, the word gets round. So attitude has to be key. I think social media is a platform. I don't necessarily think it's the best way, because I think you need to look at all different platforms. So social media, people talking, getting out there and seeing players, engaging with other coaches, other scouts, other clubs, other events. Social media will put it out there what's going on, but I think networking and seeing people is far more important. The two have to go together. The two have to go together. And the reason I say that is I can make a stat look really good. So I can say to you, what is 10 times 10? 100. You've got 100% of the questions right. But you've only asked me one question. Yeah, but you've still got 100% right. So if I asked you 100 questions and you get one right, so you know what I mean? So you have to be careful with stats, how you work them. Stats are part of it, but they can't be all of it. So you have to put the jigsaw pieces together, because one can't really work without another. So the stats would certainly interest you. If you're doing your own stats, as academies would do, those are crucial, because you're not doing a one-off. So you would do it over a season, or you'd do a testing. So you'd test 3 times a year. But one stat, one game wouldn't really be good enough, wouldn't give you enough information. So, but what it would do is, if somebody says to you, this lad's got 90% passing rate, you'd look at him, because he might have been playing against poor opposition. You would always look at a player a minimum of 3 times, because anyone can have a good game, anyone can have a bad game, and everyone can have an average game. But over 3, you'd like to think, and then that 3 you might go, okay, I need to look again, or he's had a couple of bad ones, I'll revisit. So that they are important, but nothing can be taken in isolation on its own.
Any final words for young players that are going to be coming to our Showcase Academy?
Yeah, please come along, come with an open mind, come and enjoy it, come and ask questions, come and give it your best shot. Everyone is there to help you, everyone is there to give you advice, and we'll see where we can help you to get on your journey without any guarantees. What we can do is help you, nurture you, and try and give you the opportunity which I've been speaking about.
That's all right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well done, Graham.
Thank you.